These sounds tell much of the story of Irvine Park. Many of them remain, while others have disappeared, like the sound of cars rolling over the Bridge of the Pines, which quickly gained the name Rumbly Bridge for the sounds it made which inspired giggles from countless youngsters on drives with their family. Or the sound of William Irvine requesting his favorite song, The Bells of St. Mary's, every Sunday at the bandstand. Created in the Progressive Era, Irvine Park provided not simply recreational opportunities, but a connection to nature that instilled hardy values. The mighty pines in the Northwoods bestowed upon Chippewa Falls the gift of the timber industry. By the late 1800s, the timber business was booming, and the city was home to the largest lumber mill in the world under one roof. Operated by the Chippewa Lumber and Boom Company, the mill was eventually managed by William Irvine. However, times at the mill had not always been so stable.
This mill went through successive stages of failures. Everybody made a failure of it. William Irvine, 1926.
William Irvine's visionary stewardship of Chippewa Lumber and Boom was matched by his stewardship of Chippewa Falls. The timber industry provided William Irvine with wealth. He used much of that wealth to benefit the city. The most enduring of his legacies is the park that bears his name. In 1906, William Irvine secured a donation from Chippewa Lumber and Boom of 85 acres of land south of Glenlock Lake for the purpose of establishing a park.
If William Irvine was the kind of man who only saw money when he looked at pine trees, we wouldn't have Irvine Park today. District Attorney Marshall Wiley, 1983.
Over the ensuing years, Irvine himself made generous monetary donations that provided the park with additional land, a pavilion, bridges and roads, musical concerts every Sunday, and a new bandstand. For all his generous donations, the only stipulations William Irvine demanded were that the park remain free and open to all, and for the band to play the bells of St. Mary's most every Sunday.
Gentlemen, all I have to say is you had better get something, unless you want to move out, for you have seen the last sawmill. George Buffington, 1885.
The pines of the Chippewa Valley could not last forever, and as they dwindled, so did the prospect of the timber industry. The economic viability of Chippewa Falls depended upon preparing the city to transition to new sources of economic growth. Through his association with the Lumbermen's Bank and the Progressive League, Irvine worked to attract businesses to the Chippewa Valley and keep the area growing after the forests fell silent. To preserve his noblest creation, Irvine left behind a trust fund in the sum of $100,000 to help guarantee the park would continue. In the years following his death, in 1927, many others picked up his mantle of generosity to ensure the continuation of the park, including his daughter Ruth, who helped create the newest bear den in the zoo.
It was a benediction to have known him. When you speak of gentlemen, from inside out, he was a gentleman. Ruth Irvine Richter, 1983.
Irvine Park was a source of recreation for many, but especially for children. The park's playground became legendary and was called the Avenue of Fun. The merry-go-round seated 16, provided none of the 16 fell off. Twin slides towered over Duncan Creek as children dropped 20 and 30 feet into 3.5 feet of water with a mighty crash. In the days before the mass-produced automobile was an option for most Americans, the streetcar emerged as a way of moving people around. The interurban streetcar system first appeared in Eau Claire in 1889. By 1898, the line took passengers on a 12.5-mile jaunt to Chippewa Falls for a nickel. The ride offered many activities for families. A stop at the Electric Park in Lake Hallie offered carnival rides and a theater. Riders could then hop back on the streetcar and take it to Irvine Park, where it made a small loop, turned around, and returned to Eau Claire. The interurban was especially important during World War I, maintaining the vitality of both mothers and children. By the 1920s, more than 700,000 people were riding the interurban each year. Only the rise of mass-produced automobiles and bus systems brought an end to the interurban. In 1926, the line to Chippewa Falls was closed. The vestiges of the interurban line are few today. The sole remnant at Irvine Park is the depot station that sits at the main entrance. Irvine Park was also a haven for local families, churches, and organizations to have picnics and reunions. William Irvine himself and his family always picnicked at the park, with Irvine delighting in feeding the animals each time. Promoting patriotism has always been integral to Irvine Park. When the new bandstand was unveiled before more than 12,000 attendees in 1924, it bore the inscription, "To our soldiers and sailors." The 104th U.S. Reserve Band was among the many playing at the new bandstand just a stone's throw away from twin Civil War cannons that remain to this day.
Poor is the man, however great his wealth, to whom the park of Irvine yields no mental health, to whom the music of the early birds can bring no solace sweet as spoken words, to whom the torrent with its ceaseless hymn, the streamlet wending through the copses dim, the lovely lake reflecting moon and star, the stately hilltops gleaming from afar, the high of branches in the summer woods, the solemn roaring of wild Duncan's floods, all sights and sounds in nature's veined range. Eau Claire Leader, 1909.
Bears have been with Irvine Park since nearly the beginning, first appearing with bison, deer, and elk in 1909. Placed in a den on the east side of the park, the living quarters deteriorated over time. So decrepit had the den become, the park board considered closing the bear exhibit entirely, and local children begged that it be improved. A remodel of the bear den in the 1980s created more problems than solutions. By the 1990s, the situation had become critical.
The bears are in small cages, and the odor is offensive. I don't enjoy looking at the bears in that situation. Mayor Virginia Smith, 1994.
In 2004, the bears received a dramatic reprieve when money from the Ruth Irvine Richter Fund was used to create a new barless bear den. The commitment to the principle of no bars now characterizes the entirety of the zoo. Generosity has connected generations, linking William Irvine not only to his daughter Ruth, but to countless others in Chippewa Falls who have assumed the responsibility of stewardship for the greatest legacy left behind by William Irvine, the park bearing his name, whose gate always remains open to all.
And so it was in 1960 gave the city land to make a park for everyone to share. 160 acres and a vista that was grand, with trees and streams and rocks and good clean air. He had a park pavilion made with stone cut from the hill, a bandstand built in 1924. The people came from miles around, and people always will. May Irvine Park live on forevermore. William Irvine, William Irvine.
The real tribute to William Irvine is the park itself. Mayor Leo Hamilton, 1983.